Pause for a moment and listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you might seem absurd, even contradictory, but it's the absolute truth. Everything you thought you knew about success is wrong. It's not about your degree, it's not about hard work, and it's certainly not about luck. I discovered this in the most painful way. When I had nothing, no money, no direction, no self-esteem. And yet, in just a few years, I went from total bankruptcy to earning over $1 million annually. How? By simply applying something that less than 1% of people on the planet have the courage to put into practice. Now answer me this. What if everything you've been taught about making money is a lie? What if all it took was changing one idea, a single idea, to completely transform your destiny? I discovered something that completely changed my life. Something so simple yet so powerful that almost no one takes it seriously. It all started with an idea. Just one idea. It wasn't money. It wasn't luck. It wasn't someone opening a door for me. It was an idea that once it entered my mind, began to change everything around me. Back then, I had nothing. No degree, no experience, and believe me, I had no self-esteem either. I cleaned office floors for $30 a month. That's right, $30. And I vividly remember the smell of that floor, the sound of the bucket clanging against the wall. As I scrubbed, I thought, is this what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? I saw no way out. But one day, someone gave me a book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that was the seed. I didn't know it then, but that book was about to completely reprogram my way of thinking. The curious thing is that it wasn't the act of reading itself that transformed me. It was the idea it carried, the power of thought, the conviction that everything begins within the mind. That hit me like a lightning bolt. For the first time, I realized it wasn't the world holding me back. It was my own way of thinking. Up until that moment, I believed that only special people, those with luck or privileged education, could prosper. But what if that wasn't the case? What if a person's true turning point was simply the ability to believe in an idea and act on it with faith? I started to test it. I took a piece of paper and wrote down a goal. Nothing extraordinary. I just wanted to get out of debt. That was it. And you know what happened? In just a few months, things started moving in ways I had never seen before. People started appearing. Opportunities I would never have noticed began to emerge. I got promoted. And after some time, I opened my own cleaning company. In the first year, I earned over $100,000. This was at a time when I barely knew how to manage a bank account. I wasn't smarter. I hadn't studied business administration. I was simply aligned with the frequency of the right idea. Now, think about yourself. How many times have you had an incredible idea and given up before even starting? How many times has something within you said, go for it? But another voice, louder and more critical, responded, that's impossible. How many dreams have you buried because someone laughed at them or because you yourself believed you weren't capable? The truth is, there's no shortage of opportunities. There's a shortage of decisions. It's not a lack of money that stops you. It's a lack of commitment to an idea. An idea is like a seed. If you plant it and water it every day with faith and action, it grows. But if you let it dry out, it dies. And you know what's most tragic? Most people never let their ideas leave the drawing board. Statistics show that more than 70% of people have the desire to start something new, a business, a book, a project, but less than 10% actually begin. And of those, fewer than 2% persist until the end. Do you know what separates those 2% from the rest? It's not luck, it's focus. It's the ability to keep the idea alive even when nothing seems to be happening. I learned this when I was completely alone, with a broom in my hand and my heart full of fear. I decided that if that was the only opportunity I had, I would turn it into gold. And that's exactly what happened. Not because I was different, but because I didn't let the idea die. Look, the world is full of intelligent and talented people who never get anywhere. Why? Because they give up on their ideas halfway through. The mind is lazy. It wants comfort. It wants security. And security is the greatest illusion there is. True security comes when you learn to trust your own capacity to create. And creating requires courage. The courage to believe in something no one else sees. The courage to continue when everything seems to go against you. The courage to keep moving forward when no one believes in you. I had no proof it would work. I just had an idea and a decision not to turn back. Now I want you to think about something. What is the idea that has been hammering in your mind for weeks, months, or even years, and that you keep ignoring? That idea that visits you at night, when silence takes over and you push away saying, "Not now." Maybe it's writing a book, maybe starting a business, maybe completely changing careers. I ask you, what do you lose by trying? And what do you lose if you never try? The answer is simple. You lose your life. You lose years trapped in a routine that doesn't inspire you, working on something that doesn't make you happy simply because you were afraid to take the first step. I didn't know how to start, but I started anyway. And that's exactly what separates dreamers from doers. Most people wait for confidence to appear before taking action, but confidence is the result of action, not the cause. You won't feel ready before you start. You'll feel ready after you've started. I am living proof of this. When I opened my company, I had no idea how to manage a business. I did things by instinct. I made many mistakes, but each mistake taught me something new. And the more I acted, the more clarity I gained. Action creates direction. Direction creates results. You attract what corresponds to your vibration. That's why, when you say, "I have no money," the universe understands you want to continue having no money. When you repeat, "It's difficult," the universe understands you desire more difficulty. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is determined by the dominant ideas in your mind. That's why I needed to completely change my mental programming. I started acting, speaking, and thinking like someone who was already prosperous, even when my bank account said otherwise. At first it seemed crazy. I would tell myself, "I'm a rich man, I'm a prosperous man. Money flows easily to me." And there were days when I barely had enough to eat, but I kept repeating it because I knew the universe responds to vibration, not to appearance. And little by little, circumstances began to change. I attracted new people, new ideas, new opportunities. Everything started to revolve around my new mindset. I didn't become smarter, I became more conscious. The difference between those who prosper and those who don't lies in where they place their minds. While some focus on what's lacking, others focus on what they wish to create. While some see money as a problem, others see it as a tool for expansion. And this shift in focus is what transforms everything. That's why everywhere you look, you find people with degrees and titles, but without purpose. And you also find simple people, guided by an idea, creating entire empires. Intelligence doesn't create wealth. Consciousness does. And consciousness is knowing that you are the starting point of everything. When you change the way you think about money, money changes the way it comes to you. Opportunities appear, not because they didn't exist before, but because you can now see them. Your level of consciousness is the filter that defines what you perceive. When your mind is stuck in scarcity, you can have gold right before your eyes and still not see it. I learned that the real work isn't about struggling for money. It's about working on yourself. It's about polishing the lenses of your mind until you see the world in a new way. When you elevate your thinking, the universe responds, and this is one of the most precise laws that exist. You can only receive what you are prepared to receive. Therefore, if you want to have more, you must first become more. I stopped measuring my intelligence by results and started measuring it by my capacity to create new ideas. Creativity is the purest form of intelligence, and we all possess it. The problem is that fear, guilt, and limiting beliefs suffocate this power. From the moment you free yourself from these, your mind becomes a fertile ground where new opportunities blossom. Think about this. How many people do you know who work harder than you, who are smarter than you, and yet don't have the life they desire? And how many have fewer skills, but live with freedom and abundance? The difference is within. It's in how they see themselves. Wealthy people believe they deserve to prosper. They don't ask for permission to be abundant. They simply are. So ask yourself, what do you truly believe about money? Do you see it as something that flows freely, or as something that needs to be earned through sacrifice? Your relationship with money reveals your relationship with life. If you think money is scarce, you live in fear. If you understand that money is energy, you live with confidence. It took me years to understand this, but today I can state with conviction, success doesn't depend on how much you know, but on how much you believe in your power to create. The external world is merely a reflection of what you accept internally as truth. When you change your truth, the world changes with you. And that's when you realize it was never about intelligence. It was always about awareness. For a long time, I was trapped in one of the most silent and destructive prisons a human can experience, the desire to please others. I believed I had to be what was expected of me. I spent my life trying to live up to the image the world had created of who I should be. And no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. It was like running on a treadmill. I exerted myself, I sweated, but I stayed in the same place. I smiled when I wanted to cry. I agreed when I disagreed. I did what was right for others, even when I knew deep down that I was betraying myself, and it gnawed at me from the inside. I vividly remember the day everything began to change. I was sitting at the back of a large, crowded auditorium, watching a man on stage. His name was Bill Gove. He spoke with such a powerful presence that he seemed to control the very air around him. People were hypnotized by every word. I watched him with a mix of admiration and envy. I thought, if only I could speak like him, if only I had that confidence, everything in my life would be different. But inside me was a paralyzing fear. Fear of being ridiculed, fear of being rejected, fear of showing who I truly was and discovering it wouldn't be enough. As I was drowning in these thoughts, Bill said something that cut through me like a blade. If you want to be free, you have to be yourself. In that instant, it was as if time stood still. I realized I had never truly been myself. I was the sum of others' expectations, what my family wanted, what society approved of, what I thought people expected to see. And at that exact moment, I understood. I wasn't free. I merely existed. Most people live exactly like this, trapped within an invisible prison. They have dreams, talents, ideas, but they lock them away behind 7 locks, fearing judgment. How many times have you wanted to try something new, but gave up just because someone might laugh? How many opportunities have you let slip away because someone told you it was too much for you? And worst of all, how many times have you shrunk yourself to fit into small spaces, into suffocating relationships, into soul-crushing jobs, just to be accepted? Being accepted is one of humanity's strongest needs. From childhood, we are conditioned to seek approval. A compliment from a teacher, a smile from a friend, validation from a boss, all of it becomes fuel. But the problem is, when this pursuit becomes the center of your life, you lose what is most precious, your authenticity. And the price for that is incredibly high. Because pleasing others might give you momentary comfort, but living a life that isn't yours is a slow death. For years, I carried this prison with me. I didn't want to draw attention. I didn't want to make mistakes. I didn't want to be judged, but in trying to be everything to everyone, I ended up being nothing to myself. I remember one specific night, coming home, completely exhausted. I looked in the mirror and realized I no longer recognized the person staring back. I saw a tired, empty face, with eyes full of fear. It was at that moment I decided, I will no longer live to please anyone. I will discover who I am. And if that bothers people, then let it bother them. That decision changed everything. But it wasn't easy. When you decide to be yourself, the world reacts. People who once applauded you start to drift away. Others criticize you, judge you, call you arrogant, a dreamer, out of touch with reality. I lived through this. Friends left, family members called me crazy, co-workers avoided me. But you know what's worse than being criticized? Continuing to live a lie. Being authentic requires courage. Courage to say no when everyone expects you to say yes. Courage to stand up when the world wants you to kneel. Courage to be imperfect, to show your flaws, to not pretend to be something you're not. And that courage comes from a very specific place, self-knowledge. When you start to understand yourself, to truly listen to yourself, something changes. You stop caring so much about what others think because you finally understand your worth. I began to free myself from the inside out. I didn't need to rebel against the world. I just needed to stop fighting myself. I started small, speaking what I truly thought, even if my voice trembled, making decisions aligned with what I wanted, not what others expected. And do you know what happened? Life started to respond. The right opportunities began to appear. Genuine people started to draw near. Everything began to align, as if the universe had just been waiting for me to align with myself. But before any of that could happen, I needed to confront the fear of rejection. This is perhaps the deepest fear there is, the fear of not being loved, the fear of not belonging. It's this fear that causes so many talents to die in silence, that makes brilliant people hide themselves in small lives. I needed to understand that rejection isn't the end of the world. It's just proof that I'm on the path of authenticity. And every time someone walked away, I reminded myself, rejection is the liberation from those not ready for my truth. I also realized something essential. When you live to please, you never truly please, because the standards change, opinions shift, and your effort is never enough. But when you are truly yourself, the world adjusts. The right people stay. The wrong ones leave. And that's a blessing in disguise. I remember the first time I stepped onto a stage to speak. I was terrified. My hands were sweating, my voice trembled, and everything in me screamed to give up. But I didn't give up. I went ahead. And the moment I started speaking, I realized something. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to be true. And that's what connected people to me, because truth has its own frequency. When you speak from your essence, people feel it. They recognize themselves in you. That's why being yourself is the most powerful act of freedom there is. When you stop trying to please, fear begins to lose its grip. You start to live with more lightness, more purpose, more joy. You discover you don't need external approval when you have inner peace. And life becomes a mirror of that. So ask yourself, in how many areas of your life are you still pretending to be someone you're not? How many parts of you are trapped in an attempt to maintain peace with others while creating war within yourself? Because I guarantee you, the price of authenticity is high, but the price of living without it is unbearable. When I finally decided to be myself, everything changed. I stopped living in fear and started living with truth. And the curious thing is that when you are truthful, you inspire others to do the same. Freedom is contagious, and that's what I want you to feel now. The freedom to be who you truly are, because when you free yourself from others' expectations, you don't just change your life, you change the world around you. For a long time, doubt was my greatest enemy. It stole opportunities from me, prevented me from growing, and almost destroyed my self-confidence. I believed fear was the problem, but I discovered that fear is just a disguise for doubt. Fear appears when doubt dominates the mind. And doubt is cunning. It doesn't arrive screaming. It arrives whispering. It's that voice that says, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? That voice held me captive for years, and perhaps it's holding you captive now. I remember a period when I was so insecure that I even avoided asking questions in public. I attended seminars, read books, listened to lectures, but I never raised my hand. Not because I had no questions, but because I was afraid of looking foolish. I preferred leaving without understanding anything rather than risking being judged. It was a small behavior, but it reflected a deep pattern, the fear of making mistakes. Doubt made me believe that if I showed vulnerability, people would see me as weak. But the truth is, hiding my doubts made me even weaker. When I started working with Earl Nightingale, I learned something that completely changed my perspective on life. He told me, people underestimate what they can do and overestimate what others are capable of. That hit me hard because it described exactly what I was doing. I believed others had something I didn't. More talent, more luck, more intelligence. I diminished myself in front of everyone and without realizing it, fed doubt as if it were truth. And it was there that I understood. Doubt is a convincing lie. It dresses itself in prudence, speaks like logic, but in reality, it's fear disguised as common sense. For a long time, I hesitated to start my first business. I thought, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? I almost gave up before even trying. But there came a day when I decided to act, even with fear. I knew nothing about the cleaning market, had no experience, no business plan. But I decided to take a step. And in that instant, something changed within me. Every mistake I made didn't bring me down. It strengthened me. Because every mistake killed a piece of doubt. I realized that what destroys doubt isn't success. It's action, and that's what made me understand the difference between those who prosper and those who remain trapped in mediocrity. Those who prosper feel fear, but they act anyway. They don't wait for confidence to start. They start to gain confidence. Doubt doesn't disappear with time. It disappears with movement. When you act, even while trembling, even without guarantees, the universe begins to respond. You realize you weren't waiting for courage. You were waiting for permission, but the only permission you need is your own. I want you to think about how many opportunities you've let slip away in recent months, all because of doubt. That idea that seemed great but you put off. That important conversation you avoided. That dream you kept on hold because it wasn't the right time yet. How many times have you rationalized fear with well-crafted excuses? I don't have time yet. I need to prepare more. I'll wait for things to calm down. Do you know what all these phrases have in common? They are all polite ways of saying, I doubt myself. Doubt is a thief. It doesn't steal your money or your opportunities. It steals your vital energy. Because when you doubt, you live divided. One part wants to move forward, the other wants to protect itself. One part dreams, the other fears. And this internal conflict drains all the creative force within you. It's like trying to drive with your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. You wear yourself out, but you don't go anywhere. I clearly remember one night when I stayed up late, wondering whether or not I should continue with my business. I was tired, in debt, and doubt was devouring me. I almost gave up, but I decided one thing. I would no longer make decisions based on fear. I would decide based on faith. Not religious faith, but faith in my own ability to create. And that's what changed everything. Faith is the opposite of doubt. And the curious thing is that both are a choice. You can choose to believe in failure, or you can choose to believe in success. The energy you put in is the same, only the outcome changes. People ask me, how do I stop doubting myself? And I always answer, you don't stop. You act despite the doubt, because doubt never completely goes away. It's there to test how much you want something, and every time you act, it loses a little bit of its strength. It's like a shadow. It seems enormous in the dark, but it vanishes in the light of action. I want to propose something that can change the course of your life. Choose one thing you've been putting off due to fear. Anything. A conversation, a decision, an idea, and decide to act within the next 7 days. Do it even if fear accompanies you. On the first day, you will feel discomfort. On the second, you will feel resistance. But if you persist, something powerful will happen. Doubt will begin to weaken. And when it weakens, confidence grows. You will realize that doubt never had real power. The power was always in you. It only controlled you because you believed in it. And when you change that belief, the game changes. Your energy changes. Your demeanor changes. People start to see you differently because you start to see yourself differently. I have seen brilliant people lose everything because they let doubt take the wheel. And I have seen ordinary people achieve the impossible simply because they decided to act even without knowing how. The world doesn't reward the most prepared. It rewards those who decide with courage. Today, looking back, I clearly see that every time I doubted, I lost time. And every time I acted, even with fear, life rewarded me. Because doubt paralyzes, but action liberates. Doubt is the voice of stagnation. Action is the cry of evolution. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You just need to start. The human mind is a fertile field, but it only bears fruit when you plant action. When you repeat doubt, it takes root. But when you plant movement, fear is suffocated. And that is a universal law. So if there's something you deeply desire, something that fear has been trying to extinguish, act now. Not tomorrow, not when everything seems safe. Now. Because fear never disappears before action. It disappears after. And when that happens, you will look back and realize that what held you back wasn't doubt. It was the illusion that you needed guarantees. Life wasn't made for those who wait for certainties. It was made for those who decide to create their own path, step by step, even when the fog covers the horizon. And the irony is that when you take the first step, the ground appears, always. Doubt is the force that paralyzes, but action is the power that liberates. The most important point you need to remember is simple and profound. Confidence doesn't come before action. It is born from it. Every step you take, even trembling, even without knowing the outcome, builds your faith in yourself. That's how you conquer fear. That's how you change your life. Don't wait for courage to appear to start. Start, and courage will come, because when you act, the universe understands the message. You are ready. And it is at that instant that doors begin to open. Now continue with me. The next video appearing on screen will take you even deeper, helping you climb another step in your wisdom evolution to become 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being here with me. I'll see you there in the next video.